New Right Network. Mobilizing, countering the left, energizing the right. New Right Network, home of the New Right movement.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to New Right Network's original series, SmythTV. Your host, Brian Smith, giving you all the breaking news of the day, wrapping it all up, making sense of it, exposing the fake news, and giving you the real news. And today, Tuesday thoughts, folks, not like any other day, with a lot of breaking news, a lot of information out there. And we're going to hit it all. Everything from Attorney General Barr appointing John Durham. And who is John Durham? The left ain't happy, I'll tell you that much right now. We're going to talk about Trump's economy and the tariffs. People are screaming about the tariffs are hurting and this war with China. But you didn't read Trump's tweets, because if you did, you'd know the real news. And then Democrats 2020, there's now 22 Democrats running for the attention of America of sorts. I don't think any of them have a prayer in hell, but we'll see how that goes. And then updates, the Spygate again, the updates with the Barr. And then a touchy subject that I know Twitter doesn't like us talking about and Facebook doesn't like us talking about, but some breaking news with Islam around the world. And we'll wrap it up with that. But to start everything off, I want to introduce my new guest host, if you will, for the day, at Robert Dunlop 947. And Bob, how you doing?
Good. How are y'all doing?
Fantastic. All right. All right, Bob. Welcome to the show. Welcome. You've introduced yourself. Tell the folks a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a small business owner out of the Carolinas, and a staunch conservative. Very certainly believe in Jesus Christ. Love guns and America.
That's fantastic. And obviously a Trump supporter.
Yeah, obviously, yes.
All right, good time.
Who wouldn't be?
Right. I mean, this is the greatest time to be alive in a country that's just everything's thriving and going in the right direction. And I teased everybody with the Attorney General Barr and his nomination. You and I were talking a little bit earlier about that. You want to jump right into it?
Yeah. They keep appointing him whenever the FBI or CIA or police forces do something illegal. This is the guy that they always appoint because he's non-political. I know he's Republican, but apparently he's non-political. And once he gets his hands on something, he's the guy that actually got the FBI probe out of Boston and created that movie, The Departed. So he's got a lot of experience, and the left has just got to be scared to death about what's going on now.
Right, because even Janet Reno called him up to do some investigating of videotapes that were supposedly destroyed by the CIA of interrogations and abuse. He investigated that. And then you referenced the Whitney Bulger mobsters tied with the law enforcement of sorts. And he was called to investigate that as well and break that up.
What about, did you hear about, he uncovered the FBI, they framed 4 people in the 60s. And they were thrown in jail for murder. And once he uncovered that, well, 2 of them had died in jail, but 2 of them got out, and they won a $100 million lawsuit against the United States.
Wow. No, I did hear that. Holy smoke.
Yeah,
So,
I forgot to tell you about that earlier.
No, that's fantastic. So this guy's probably making the Democrats sweat a little bit, you think?
I would think, very much so, especially Comey and Brennan and just the top of the top. They're all going down eventually, for sure.
Speaking about Comey, at Chuck Callisto, Comey faces new investigations regarding violations of Espionage Act. How the tide turns, this by trendingpolitics.com. James Comey is looking like he's about ready to be taken down.
What he needs to do is another one of those interviews where he contradicts what he said before. So it's just unbelievable.
Well, we know that what he said under oath, and then now what he's saying when he's doing the circuit, running around the news outlets that'll let him speak, it contradicts everything that he says under oath. We know for a fact that he told us this, know for a fact that he took notes of his meeting with Trump, passed them on to a professor. That professor then passed them on to the news media to help get Russia probe started.
Right. But he keeps contradicting what he said earlier under oath. You're correct. He's definitely going to go to jail. Him and Brennan, and Was it Clapper?
Yeah, James Clapper. No, definitely. And then last night, Rosenstein was blasting.
The former director seems to be acting as a partisan pundit, selling books and earning speaking fees while speculating about the strength of my character and the fate of my immortal soul. I kid you not.
He was calling out Comey about how unprofessional and throwing Comey under the rug. My personal opinion and things that I know about Rod Rosenstein, I believe he's part of this deep, dirty state as well. And I think he's trying to find a way to get out clean, and throwing Comey under the rug would probably be a good way.
Well, he's the one that suggested that Trump fire him. And then he turns around and starts the investigation. It was all a big setup.
Right. He also went around that was his boss at the time, Comey. And it was also McCabe was also his boss at the time. And he went around McCabe and got Trump to fire McCabe too. Well, not Trump, but get McCabe fired. Right.
I don't think he's clean at all, Rod Rosenstein. And he's the one that was going to wear a wire, maybe, remember?
Wear a wire and invoke the 25th Amendment and set the whole thing up to where then he was totally in charge of the entire Mueller team.
Right. And Sessions had to recuse himself. That's a whole nother, it just really was, it's unbelievable. It's a very big stand on American history.
Right, no doubt. And not only that, but Rod Rosenstein also signed off on one of the renewals for the FISA warrant, which is obviously you got a conflict of interest, should have never been. And then from what we know now, before Jeff Sessions was Attorney General, he met with and was completely legal and normal to meet with a Russian ambassador. That's not a big thing. But then when he was approached as Attorney General, the Obama administration, dirty dogs, tricked him into believing that that would be something improper or that he could have been held in collusion with the Russian probe if he didn't recuse himself. I don't necessarily blame Jeff Sessions, but I really wish he would have had a stronger backbone.
He really was a huge disappointment because if you remember back when Trump was running for president, he basically took Sessions' immigration policy and copied and pasted it into his. So he was one of the first people backing Trump. Just a huge disappointment Jeff Sessions was to me.
Well, and this is in entire Jeff Sessions' entire career. I believe this was the first person he has ever tapped to say, yes, you've got my vote as president of the United States.
I can see why Trump tapped him. I mean, Trump is very loyal to his friends. It was a huge disappointment. I don't know what happened to him.
Right. And everything we've ever known of Jeff Sessions, I thought it had been phenomenal as Attorney General. Everything I've ever seen of him in his political career, I say right on, thumbs up. I was excited about it. And what a huge, as you say, disappointment with Jeff Sessions. But now, juxtaposed, and I keep telling everybody, guys, you cannot forget. Remember, go get in the way back gear. Go back 2.5 years ago, folks. Remember how Trump was treating the office, how Trump had just entered the office, new, cold feet, whatever, kind of trying to see who's real in his camp, who's got to get rid of, Reince Priebus, throw that one out, and now fast forward to today, Attorney General Barr. Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome. It looks like we're going to get some vindication, and the investigators are now going to be investigated.
Right, so and also part of the show notes as well. And what do you think about this? At Judicial Watch, Epoch Times and Tom Fitton said documents obtained by Judicial Watch suggest the Obama White House knew about the Clinton email lies being told to the public at least as early as December 2012.
He knew about it. He was emailing her back and forth to the server. Yeah. He had a false handle himself.
Yeah, we now know, it's a fact, documents have come out. We now know that one of the probes into her email server, the White House was watching that and making sure that didn't uncover what it needed to uncover. So you talk about obstruction of justice.
Golly. I mean, it's like projection. The Democrats project what they do.
100% whenever they scream, and now they're screaming, constitutional crisis.
Yeah.
You all created the constitutional crisis.
The Democrats did.
Yeah. All lock, stock, and barrel. Mark Taylor, prophecies. I know you say you're Christian, devout Christian. What do you put into, or what do you think about, or do you have any feeling about prophecies and Mark Taylor's prophecies?
I think prophecies are real, and
yeah, he prophesied. He said it came to him in a dream in the early 2000s that Donald Trump would be president of the United States.
I did. You're right.
In 2012, he thought that it was going to be Trump. Trump didn't run, and we see Mitt Romney, placeholder Mitt Romney, and then just gave it to Obama at the last minute. And he thought it was all over with. He didn't think it was going to work, and he said he was watching TV and he saw Donald Trump speaking. He said, "The Lord spoke to me and said, you're listening to the President of the United States of America." And then all of a sudden, Trump ran. He prophesied that Obama and Hillary Clinton, all these people are going to be prosecuted.
I would agree with that. I think they should be charged with treason and hung on live TV.
Oh Lord! Ethel Rosenblum, who was tried for treason, World War II, and hung.
Yeah.
Let's
do that.
I don't know, man. It seems kind of vicious. But think about that. Think about the crisis that we're in right now.
I know.
That we've never had before, at least that we didn't know of. I mean, Woodrow Wilson was a full-blown communist, probably our first communist president. And then FDR rewrote and had a new Bill of Rights, rewrote the Constitution.
In our day, certain economic proofs have become accepted as self-evident. A second Bill of Rights, under which a new basis of security and prosperity can be established for all, regardless of station or race or creed. Among these are the right to a useful and remunerative job, the right to earn enough to provide adequate food and clothing and recreation, the right of every farmer to raise and sell his products at a return which will give him and his family a decent living, the right of every businessman, large and small, to trade in an atmosphere of freedom from unfair competition and domination by monopolies at home or abroad, the right of every family to a decent home, the right to adequate medical care and the opportunity to achieve and enjoy good health, the right to adequate protection from the economic fears of old age, sickness, accident, and unemployment, the right to a good education. All of these rights spell security, and after this war is won, we must be prepared to move forward in the implementation of these rights to new goals of human happiness and well-being. For unless there is security here at home, there cannot be lasting peace in the world.
A whole new Bill of Rights. So you can Google that, folks. Second Bill of Rights, FDR. And then LBJ, huge downfall for Black Americans under the Democrats, LBJ. And now Obama. I think this is worse than all of them.
I think it is too, just because, I mean, we gotta set an example, really, so this hopefully doesn't happen again in our lives. But they just felt like they could get away with anything, and they pretty much did up until now.
Right, and we know from emails and text messages, Hillary Clinton said, quote, "We've got to beat this SOB, otherwise we'll all hang."
Yes, I believe that prophecy.
I believe. Oh, man, good times. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, Hillary Clinton and the rest of the crew are definitely in deep, deep water. What do you think about? Listen to this. This is by Dan Crenshaw. He's on The View, and The View. We all got our opinions about that.
The communist view.
Yeah, the communist view. and he's with Joy Behar, and they're talking about the Russia thing and Trump.
Talk about, the fact that he met with Putin for 90 minutes this week or last week and never once brought up the fact that Russia interfered in our election. Mm-hmm. And he never brought it up. How is it that the Republican Party, your colleagues, can stand by this man when he is involved in this way with Russia? I mean, I said last week that I don't want to see any of those flag pins anymore on Republicans who don't stand up against this guy for Russian meddling and other things that he's done. It seems as though he's unpatriotic. What do you say to that?
I think we're overstating it. I mean, first of all, that meeting was regarding Venezuela. Now, I will give you this. The president has a bad habit of repeating what Putin says to the public.
I don't think so.
And, he shouldn't do that. But he also has a pretty good habit of taking actions and putting in policies in place that are vehemently counter Russia. Just off the top of my head, as I'm thinking about it, let's think about these. Okay, so putting lethal aid in Ukraine, actually killing Russian militants in Syria, bombing Syria chemical weapons, what I saw. This is Russia's ally. Pressuring the Europeans to spend more on their defense, to use our natural gas instead of Russian natural gas. None of these things are good for Russia. All right. And then let's look at what this president has done.
He's playing Putin? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying his action.
Protect our democracy
I'm
here,
going to get
our
to that.
election.
I'm going to get to that in a second. So on the cyber defense side, this is an extremely important part, and it's bipartisan in nature. This administration has put way more funding into our cybersecurity defenses, as well as working for the first time, working with all 50 states and their election teams to make sure that there are best practices involved, to make sure that there's proper information sharing, to make sure that we actually are protecting our election. This is all new.
So you're saying the policy doesn't always match the rhetoric?
That is true sometimes.
So it's really happening. He's just not telling us it's happening.
It should. And also, he just signed an executive order this last week that increases the ability for us to hire more of a cyber workforce. This is huge. All right, because that's exactly what we need in the government.
So
okay, so you see the ladies on the just dumbstruck.
I don't know what to say. Those ladies it's actually my mother too. It's like they live in a whole different world. It's the information that they're fed. My mother is convinced that the children were separated at the border by Jeff Sessions. Convinced.
Physically, Jeff Sessions is down there physically doing it. Yeah, I mean, that's what he's doing. No, but
they just get lied to and they believe it. So go ahead.
Now, do you think that the ladies on The View, do you think that they've been gaslit or brainwashed, or do you think that they're peddling the propaganda on purpose?
Probably both. I mean, they all live in this circle jerk life, especially in New York City. So they're, everyone they talk to is saying the same thing. So I think it's both.
Right. No, definitely. And you can see that when Dan Crenshaw giving them real information, facts of what Donald Trump is factually doing, they're in shock and all. Oh, so what he says to the public, he is actually physically doing something the opposite in the background.
And that's not even the case either. What he says in public is what he's doing. I don't know what they're talking about. They're probably taking what he says in little snippets and having that fit into their narrative.
Right. And we know, and folks that have been watching the show, you guys that have been with me since 2014, audio only. Now we're in a new era of video. And again, you're watching New Right Network's original series, SmythTV. Your host, Brian Smith. And we have our good friend, Bob Dunlop, but his handle is at Robert Dunlop 947. That's switched. I'll fix it, guys. Don't worry about that. But anyways, so as we're talking about the Russia, and we've known all along the truth is that this was an attempted coup. All the details of it is all coming out now. And you and I are both excited about Attorney General Barr. Do you think that Trump is going to release the FISA warrants and unredact some of these things, or do you think that's even necessary?
He's going to release it. There's one thing about Trump that people, I don't think, realize is he loves getting revenge on his enemies. So he punches back twice as hard. So, yeah, the FISA docs are all coming out. He wants to see them all arrested himself. He's going for them.
And for all of you naysayers, and I know there's some trolls on the show last night. I welcome you back. Have fun, enjoy yourself. But For all you people who think that Donald Trump has done something illegal in some way, form, or fashion, we've just now gone through almost, I think the number was like $38 million, and 2.5 years, the Mueller investigation. And there's no there.
It wasn't even an investigation. It was just an entrapment to trap him on a.
No, it was definitely entrapment. And a friend of ours, a friend of the show, George Papadopoulos, this was an article and some news that's dropping that he was truly set up. We knew he was set up, and now we know the names, the places, the dates, and the people, and it is just unbelievable. The FBI literally stuck an FBI informant in his life, pretending to be somebody else, to then pay George Papadopoulos $10,000. He gave him a duffel bag, $10,000 cash up front in Cyprus, and said, "Hey, you're going to do some lobbying for me back in the States." They were going to get him, and he wasn't registered as lobby, so they were going to get him on foreign lobby, not registered, money laundering, and a whole host of things. They were going to wreck this guy's life forever. And come to find out, he dumped the duffel bag of money with a lawyer over in Europe. He came back. When he got back here to Dulles, outside of D.C., Mueller was waiting for him.
I didn't even know that part of the story. That's fascinating.
Yep. Mueller was waiting for him. They took him in. They didn't even let him get through customs. They detained him, not an arrest. There was no warrant. There's nothing. They detained him overnight trying to get information. They went through all his bags, all his luggage, looking for the money.
Suckers. Oh, he's smart.
Yeah.
Get rid of it like that.
He definitely dodged a bullet on that one. But then it subsequently kind of spiraled out of control, wrecked his life for the last 2 years. He pleaded guilty to a process crime of something. It's when they said, you told us this, and we were spying on you, and we got the transcript, and it says this, and your words don't match up.
Oh, God. Well, he's got a new book out.
George Papadopoulos spent almost 2 weeks in jail, and while he was just after he got out of jail, like the very day he was out of jail, we had him come over to the American Priorities Conference in Washington, D.C. last year, and it was phenomenal. A guy told a story right there on stage. It was just an incredible scene. And George told all of us and told he just got married. As he was on his way to jail, he told his fiance, he said, "Why don't we just get married now? I don't know what's going to happen or how that's going to turn out." They got married on the way to jail when he was going to turn himself in.
I didn't know that.
So as he came out, he showed up to the American Priorities Conference the day he was out.
Wow.
And that night, we lickety split money, no problem. And American Priorities put together a reception, a wedding reception for him in the presidential suite of the hotel. We went out, had a blast. We took we had blacked out SUVs, like the presidential SUVs. And, that was under the condition, if we had met all these criteria to protect him and keep him safe, then he would come to the conference for us. So got the SUVs, the security detail, all that. And later on that night, we went to the Trump Tower, had a few drinks, came back.
Awesome. Great story.
Yeah, George Papadopoulos, good old Papa D. I asked him if I could call him Papa D. He said it was okay, but people told me to stop doing that.
Hey, you got to give his wife props, sticking with him through all this, too.
It's unbelievable. For those of you who think she's Russian, she's not. I lived in Italy for 3 years while being stationed in Italy for 3 years with the Air Force. She is none other than the beautiful Italians that they are. Her accent is 100% Italian, not Russian. Sorry, guys. No, we got our friend here, MAGA Michelle 2020. She's at Trump 454545. Don't miss it. There's three 45s. She's an awesome one to follow. Real news coming from her all the time. And she tweeted out, "I don't think I could love Jim Jordan any more than I do. He just ate up the Democrats and spit them out, and it was brilliant."
He is a breath of fresh air. He's great.
To stop Trump, and they didn't tell the court that Christopher Steele had been fired by the FBI because he's out talking to the press. They did that. And second, just last Thursday, New York Times story, FBI sent investigator posing as an assistant to meet with the Trump aide in 2016. FBI sent someone in, pretending to be somebody else, to talk with George Papadopoulos, who was with the Trump campaign. You know what they call that? It's called spying. They did it. They did it twice, and who knows how much more. And what I know is Bill Barr has said he's going to get to the bottom of it. And think about the term he used again. This is important. Political surveillance. In the United States of America, I will not yield. Think about that term. He said he's going to put a team together, going to investigate all this. This is critical. And never forget the guy who ran this investigation, Peter Strzok, ran the Clinton investigation and then launched and ran the Trump-Russia investigation. Never forget what he said. Trump should lose $100 million to zero. We need an insurance policy.
I do this every day, Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern, right here, New Right Network, original series, Smith TV. All right, Bob. Hey, thanks for being on the show, man. Any last words?
Obama's a liar, and he's going to be charged with treason. Same with Hillary.
Hillary for prison. That's not a hate crime. That's for real. All right, Bob.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you, buddy. We'll see you again. So kind of just to wrap it all up with John Henry Durham, this on Wikipedia, born in 1950, United States attorney for the District of Connecticut, best known for leading an inquiry into the allegations of the FBI agents and Boston police ties with the mob. Folks, they are running scared with this appointment, and I am thoroughly excited. Again, just like we just said, Bob and I both agree 100%. And this was trending on Twitter, if you will, in our group. You won't know this information unless you're plugged in with us as well. And let this sink in, people. At Rainbow_Whisperer, Barack Obama sent the Palestinians $221 million hours before leaving office. This at the New York Post. Washington officials say the Obama administration, in its waning hours, defied Russian opposition and quietly released $221 million to the Palestinian Authority that the GOP members of Congress had been blocking. If you didn't think it could get any more treasonous, if you didn't think it could get any worse, and it does, it gets worse. Obama's dirty deeds are all over the place, and we here on Smith TV, New Right Network's original series, exposing it every day, Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern. Crush the like, crush the share. Jump over to SmythTV, become a Patreon of ours, and help support new news media, getting out the real news, exposing the fake news. And this at Linda Lou 827. I wish I could say the American public isn't stupid. They can see right through this, but they did reelect Obama. How could anyone think the media is biased? And if you look at the picture she posted up, just Time magazine alone, top 4 pictures of Obama just loving on him and showing him in such a great light. And in this Time cover magazine, if you will, and the bottom 4 pictures of the Time cover magazine, Donald Trump's head is orange and yellow melting. Donald Trump's head is little tiny orange, giant hair of flames. Donald Trump swimming in drowning in a whirlpool. And then the Time magazine where Donald Trump is big, staring down at a tiny little girl that's illegal immigrant. You guys remember that one. The news media is biased everywhere. That's why you tune in here to get the real news right here. You'll also get the news from our politicians, our elected officials, and this at Dr. HENNEN. The real crisis is obstruction coming from both sides of the aisle aimed at real Donald Trump, 13 congressional district Republican running for office here in Ohio.
I don't know that Democrats know what the word crisis means. Obviously, they can't claim that we have an economic crisis. We've got growth at twice the rate that was expected under the Obama economy, and everybody's doing a lot better. But we have a real crisis on the border where 3,000 people a day are turning themselves into a system that we cannot accommodate additional influx for. And now we've got a tortured interpretation of a constitutional crisis. I can assure you that is not the case. The game you're watching isn't the game that's being...
We've known this all along. We know that it's a made up crisis. There is no constitutional crisis, but we've got to keep showing you, got to keep it out there, keep the real news out there so that people don't get swayed into fake news. And again, let's jump over to Trump economy. Trump economy and the tariffs, China war. China is really fighting back, not willing to come to the table to make a fair deal for America. And so, thank goodness we've got Trump out there, and we've got the real news right here. He's tweeting out about what's really happening, what's really going on. We talked about it yesterday, how China backed out at the last minute. We believe in the hopes of a Democrat being elected so that they can continue to rip off American citizens to the tune of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars every year. So are tariffs good or bad for America? At JKO017, Ohio manufacturing CEO explains that cracking down on China has meant stability and predictability for his business. At Real Donald Trump is fighting for business owners all across the U.S.
Yesterday, I talked to the CEO of a company that is a supplier for Whirlpool, and he says these tariffs have been great for his business. They have really stabilized things and are helping him expand. Take a listen.
Since the tariff activities have kicked in, it has been a benefit for us. We've seen investments from our customers. We've also, in terms of capacity enhancements and additional volume, which has helped stabilize and strengthen our workforce. And we've seen opportunities arise with other companies moving to the U.S. as a result of some of this. So
yeah, let's dig down on this. What have the tariffs done for your business?
So I would say, again, stability and predictability in terms of in volumes and continued investment for future programs and growth within our business.
Man, you can't beat that. That's what the real news is not going to tell you. Now, that's a local affiliate outlet. If you do watch news on the TV, I would highly suggest not watching it at all. Come right here. This is where it's at. I'll sift through it and I'll give you the real news. But again, predictability and reliability. And Donald Trump tweeting out at Real Donald Trump, China buys much less from us than we buy from them by almost $500 billion. It's $500 billion. So we are in a fantastic position. Make your product at home in the USA, and there is no tariff. You can also buy from a non-tariffed country instead of China. Many companies are leaving China. I want to take him for his word at it. If that's truly what's happening, well, and I agree that we are getting ripped off and have been getting ripped off by China for decades, and that absolutely has to stop. These crazed politicians that keep screaming that we've got to let it be, that's not where it's at right now. Well, if we continue down the same course, we're going to continue to get the same bad results. Again, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same results. We've got to change course, and that's why we voted for Donald Trump. Fighting a two-front, maybe a four-front war. Trump fighting the media, Trump fighting the deep state, Trump fighting the Democrats and the fake news, and Trump fighting the GOP, old school guys that just don't, they're part of the uniparty. And Trump's second tweet, we can make a deal with China tomorrow before their companies start leaving so as not to lose USA business. But the last time we were close, they wanted to renegotiate the deal. No way. We are in a much better position now than any deal we could have made. We'll be talking in 1 year. Tariffs will have rebuilt our steel industry. It's booming. We placed a 25% tariff on dumped steel from China and other countries, and now we have a big and growing industry. we had to save steel for our defense and our auto industries, both of which are coming back strong. Proof of what tariffs actually do. We now have a booming steel economy coming back that we didn't have before. It was falling apart. We've got manufacturers coming back. We got GM dumping more money. I think $700 million coming back. This is great news. We've got businesses coming back to America. Never a better time to start a business or get involved in a business than right now in America as things are booming. And let's talk about the Democrats, because we got to talk about the Democrats and their 2020 run. This at Sean Lynn 5. OMG, there are now 22 Democrats running for president in 2020. 22 separate, self-absorbed idiots who actually believe they are the one to unseat the best president in modern American history. You couldn't make up a crazier story after a week-long acid binge. Okay, man. Wow. And this by Zoogly747. Is the clown car full yet? There's your Democrat party, the clown car. The party of the clown car. I love it. Absolutely love it. The Democrat party. Booker getting crazy. Some of these others just really just not with it. Oh, did you guys see the one? Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren gets on a subway. She's running for president of the United States, Pocahontas, gets on a subway and nobody cares. Some guy was looking at his phone, doing something on the internet and looked over at her, gave her a glance, looked back away, went back to his phone. Pocahontas ain't working out. You need to drop out. And again, folks, this is a big money grab for these people. Running for office and losing, you can make a very, very healthy living at it. Whatever money you don't spend, you get to keep. Pocahontas, if she's raising money, I don't know who she's raising money from. If she's raising money and she doesn't spend it, she gets to keep it. Booker now saying that he's putting a restart on his campaign. Beto O'Rourke, restart on the man. Come on, guys. And we also have Rashida Tlaib. We've been reporting on her and her anti-Semitic rants, her hate and disdain for America and for Jewish people and Christian people, because, that's what Islam does. And we had some breaking news over the night. Really bad. It was a big attack on Christians. And this at Jake Palmieri. Another day, another attack on innocent Christian worshipers. Where is Pontifex? I don't follow the Pope. I don't need to hear about him. Anyway, this is at the Palmieri report. Islamic terrorists open fire in Burqa Fasco Church during Mass. Article initially from jihadwatch.org. Highly respected jihadwatch.org, as well as Pamela Geller. Very well trusted with real news about what is going on with Islam around the world and how Christians are being persecuted by the millions around the world. And yesterday, we told you about the incident with Rashida Tlaib and her vile comments about Jews and the Holocaust. And during World War II, Hitler actually enlisted ISIS-type militant, you're a good soldier if you're a militant in Islam. If you practice the Quran as a conservative Muslim, you're militant because you would follow it to the letter of the law, and the Quran says you must be militant. And Hitler enlisted them during World War II for their tactics and their violence. And this is the audio at TKAG 2020. It seems the misconstruing of history is a Democrat perception of what they want it to be. It's called lying. For example, saying you are Cherokee when you aren't, or your relatives helped Jews when in fact they are anti-Semitic. And this is what Rashida Tlaib said.
There's a kind of a calming feeling I always tell folks when I think of the Holocaust and the tragedy of the Holocaust, and the fact that it was my ancestors, Palestinians, who lost their land and some lost their lives, their livelihood, their human dignity, in the name of trying to create a safe haven for Jews.
the facts tell a very different story. This is video footage from back during the propaganda era of the Jewish persecution by the Germans. Yeah, no, sorry, Rashida Tlaib. That is not what Muslims were doing during World War II. They were not helping anybody other than Adolf Hitler. And this breaking news from our good friend at ZionistGirl18, hashtag breaking. For those of you audio only, this is a video taken at the mosque May 10th, 2019, just 4 days ago. And the Muslim is chanting. He's got a microphone, ISIS flags behind him, and he's telling everybody, every Muslim constitutes a time bomb that will explode. You can shut your eyes. You can spin it. Twitter can ban me. The truth is that this is their message and core belief. Islam's goal, they say, they state it perfectly clear. Their goal is to either convert you to Islam or cut your head off. There is no other alternative. It cannot be any other way. And people with the bumper stickers that say coexist, I'm sorry, folks. The only reason why we can't coexist is because of Islam. For truly, ask the Buddhist monks. They know the most peaceful religion out there, or, peaceful out there. No, they can't. Islam ain't going to allow that to happen. That cannot possibly be. And this at Vet Patriot 17. Oh, look, Dems, Rashida Tlaib will impeach and figure out what he did wrong later. Her resolution does not outline specific articles of impeachment. It simply signals that the time has come to begin the necessary process. Hashtag pathetic. This article at thenation.com. Calling for impeachment of a sitting president with nothing. There's no violation. He didn't do anything wrong. There's no impeachable offense. Makes you look very, very foolish. And we are crossing our fingers that some Democrat somewhere will step it up and run against Rashida Tlaib and get her out of office. This is just really, really bad for our country. It's dragging the Democrat Party down. This whole anti-Semitic thing started the walkaway movement of Jexodus to walk away from the Democrat Party. Hashtag walk away and hashtag Blexit. And this by our good friend at Prison Planet. It's Paul Joseph Watson. This is where you'll get the real news from Paul Joseph Watson, summit.news. 2 years after Islamic terror attack, ad for Islamic group with alleged terror ties appears on the side of Manchester Arena. Folks, you can't make this stuff up. This is so awful. And if you see, for those of you audio only, there's a big giant billboard sign, to save a life is if you're saved all of mankind. The Quran, quoting the Quran 5:32. This is awful, just awful. And this is the article. 2 years after an Islamic terrorist killed 23 and injured 139, many of them children at the Manchester Arena, an ad for an Islamic group with alleged ties to terrorism has appeared on the side of the building. May 22nd, 2017, radical Islamist Salman Ramadan detonated a homemade shrapnel bomb as people were leaving an Ariana Grande concert at the Manchester Arena. We remember that. We absolutely remember that. And not only that, but there are now countries where Western singers will not go sing in those countries for fear of the lives of innocent people, because they know that it's a magnet. Everybody comes and you've got tens of thousands of people. And when the show is over, you've got thousands and thousands of people walking out, and all one jihadist, a good Muslim believer would do, detonate a bomb, and you will kill a whole lot of people, which had happened there at the Ariana Grande concert. Just very, very sad. Islam doing what Islam does, Islam on display. And just wrapping things up real quick, we've got the Spygate updates just to go over it, to go over what happened over the night. And this tweeted out at Jim_Jordan. AG Barr appoints U.S. Attorney John Durham to examine the beginning of the Russia probe. Durham's investigation finally raises legitimate prospects of criminal charges for wrongdoers who unlawfully spied on the president and his political advisors. This from the New York Slimes. Yes, folks, this from the New York Times. And this also from our friend at Megavolt001. Hashtag Barr, hashtag Crossfire Hurricane. Remember that. Hashtag Crossfire Hurricane. Hashtag DeepState, hashtag Spygate. Storm. Barr names prosecutor to investigate Russia probe origin. IG Horowitz is reviewing wiretaps, app information, and political bias. Huber, the U.S. attorney in Utah, is examining other aspects of the investigation. This at thehill.com. I wanted to bring up Horowitz and Huber. What's going on, guys? You guys been at this a while. You going to step it up? I'm just saying, Huber, we haven't heard a peep of you. Not only that, but in the New York Times piece, they even make comment. And I believe the Washington Times piece also makes a comment about Huber and Horowitz. And apparently it's being reported that Horowitz is wrapping his investigation up at the end of this month or maybe next month. And Huber, no end in sight. Nobody knows. Nobody has any idea what's going on with Huber. What a shame. What an absolute shame. And we have Donald Trump calling it out for what it is. This is the real news, folks. This is where it's at. Donald Trump's thread. Just another abuse of power and a long series of abuses of power by the Democrats that began during the Obama administration, continued through the Mueller FBI operation, and now the baton has been handed to Jerry Nadler to continue abuse power to harass President Trump. And his second tweet, and the Democrat National Committee, the Democrat Party apparatus, has been caught using donor dollars to collude with Russian intelligence to attack a domestic political opponent. Me, the FBI has no leadership. The director is protecting the same gang that tried to overthrow the president through an illegal coup. Recommended by previous DOJ. At Tom Fitton, at Judicial Watch.
All right. And just when you thought, guys, that the FBI might have turned a corner or wouldn't be playing politics anymore, especially after how they treated the Trump campaign in 2016, this happens.
Do you believe that they're engaging in spying when they're following FBI investigative policies and procedures?
Well, that's not the term I would use. There are lots of people have different colloquial phrases. I believe that the FBI is engaged in investigative activity, and part of investigative activity includes surveillance activity of different shapes and sizes.
Congressman Nunes, the deep state was exposed in 2016. We're going to learn a lot more. But now this semantic game with whether or not they spied on the Trump campaign, what's going on here with Chris Wray?
Yeah, spying occurred, plain and simple, to any normal American out there. I believe what the FBI director is trying to do is his position really needs to be nonpartisan. He's there for 10 years. He's got 8 years left. So I think what he's trying to do is trying not to get in the headlines. And, shame on those senators for trying to put the FBI director in the middle of this. I mean, look, I wish he would just call spying for what it is, spying. But look, the real facts have to come out in this case. And what we're trying to continue to get to the bottom of is how many spies were involved spying on the Trump campaign. And that's what we continue to try to get answers to in Congress. And every day that goes by, I think we get, the answer becomes more and more people were doing spying. And what the director is trying to say is he's trying to say, was it legal or illegal spying?
Yeah. Well, Saul, do you think they'd be calling it spying if it turns out that, let's say, someone in a Republican campaign was, or maybe George W. Bush's FBI was surveilling the Obama campaign in 2008? And do you think they'd be calling it surveillance or spying? I have a feeling they'd be calling it spying, Saul.
Laura, I don't think they would have much trouble calling it spying. But keep in mind what Attorney General Barr said. He said, look, this is a definitional thing. I'm not saying it's wrong. If it was properly predicated, it might be perfectly legitimate spying, but let's call it what it is. When you send somebody in undercover or under false pretense.
Exactly. When you send somebody in undercover under false pretenses, absolutely spying. So that was Donald Trump was referring to in his tweet. Yes, I gonna disagree with Devin Nunes. I do not think that Christopher Wray was trying to stay out of the limelight. I personally think Christopher Wray was just trying to do what he does as, a deep stater. Maybe he's trying to stay down the middle of the road and doesn't want to call it spying. But by definition.
Bill Barr said, I said this in Wednesday's hearing on the contempt resolution. Remember what he said when he testified in front of the Senate 3.5 weeks ago. He said spying took place. He said it twice. He said there is a basis for his concern about the spying that happened. And then third, and maybe most importantly, or I guess maybe most frightening, he used two terms that scare me and should scare every American. He said unauthorized surveillance, and he talked about political surveillance. He's going to get to the bottom of that. I think Democrats are nervous about that, and so what do? They attack Bill Barr. They're going to hold him in contempt for following the law, for goodness sake. That's what they're focused on. Whether they bring in Comey or Mueller or who, we'll have to see.
Speaking of Mueller, does he appear next week or not? There was a rumor.
I don't think it's set.
Okay.
I mean, they talked about that next Wednesday, I think the 15th, but I don't think anything's set.
That was their understanding as of yesterday that it was not.
Happened, and now we've got Attorney General Barr really taking the bull by the horns. I could not be more thrilled about how this is going. Excited to see all the hats fall.
How many meetings took place in the Oval Office? One I know Biden was in. And when did Mueller know there was no collusion? Do we know that answer?
No, but what we do know is what Bill Barr said 2 weeks ago in front of the Senate Finance Committee. He said he's convinced that spying took place. There's a basis for his concern. He also said that he felt that there was a lack of leadership at the upper echelon of the FBI, and he used a term that we really haven't heard much before, and that was unauthorized surveillance. So I'm convinced the Attorney General wants to know the same thing you and I, Mark, want to know, and so many Americans. How did this all start? What was really the catalyst for this investigation? And did things happen in the realm of spying that were not authorized and should not have happened? And that's what I want to get to the bottom of, and I think that's where the American people want us to go.
What are we going to get? We have the 53 other closed-door sessions. We got the Horowitz report, Huber report. Now the Attorney General investigate. Jim, give us the list. You're a good list guy.
Well, no, look, I will say this about Ben Rhodes and him saying there's nothing there. I don't think Bill Barr thinks that based on what he said a couple weeks ago. And also when it comes to Ben Rhodes, remember, he's the same guy who told us the catalyst for Benghazi and the attack that took place there, where 4 Americans gave their life for our country. He's the same guy who told us it was all caused by a video. So I don't put a whole lot of weight in what he says. What I do know is this thing started clear back on July 31st, 2016, and all kinds of crazy things were going on. What I do know is an opposition research document was the basis to go get a warrant to do what? Spy on a person associated with the Trump campaign. I do know those things happened, and it seems to me, based on what Bill Barr said a couple weeks ago, he thinks there may be more there, and he's putting a team together to investigate.
Every one of them, left to right, everybody from Peter Strzok to Lisa Page to Bruce Orr and Nellie Orr to Weissman and all of them, every single one of them, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, every single one of these crooked.
Look at this.
She has got to be the most clueless person in America. She has the audacity to accuse the Attorney General and Deputy AG of getting it wrong on obstruction and accusing Trump of obstructing justice when she is really the symbol of obstruction. Straight out of the statute, not one, but 2 of the 5 provisions on obstruction, concealing evidence and destroying documents. Not only that, she writes this op-ed telling everybody she's an authority on impeachment and literally cites her husband's own impeachment. I'll tell you what's going on here. Hillary Clinton cannot stand that she's not the center of attention. Yeah, I mean, it's like crack cocaine for her. Power always gave her attention. She can't stand that there are 20 people running for the Democratic nomination. She is hoping that when the dust settles, gallant Hillary will step forward to save the day and be the nominee and get beat yet again.
Listen, having Hillary Clinton weigh in on obstruction is kind of like having Hugh Hefner weigh in on chastity. This is a woman, you laid out a lot of things earlier, but think about this. In the 1990s, Ken Starr had subpoenaed her Rose Law Firm records. She certified that she didn't possess those records. And then one day, a White House employee walking through her personal residence in the White House found those Rose Law Firm records, those under subpoena, sitting on a desk in her own living quarters. If that isn't obstruction, I don't know what is. And as we now know from the good work Judicial Watch did a few years ago, the prosecutors in the Ken Starr case had considered an obstruction indictment against Mrs. Clinton. So it's kind of hard for me to take her weighing of the obstruction charges against the president seriously, given her own conduct.
James Comey admitted it. James Baker wanted to indict her.
No, normal people do not do that. People with intent do that. So it showed that she had intention, that there was something going on she knew was wrong. She had spent her whole life in government, Sean. I don't believe that she just wants to be the center of attention. I believe she is fighting for her life. She knows, and for her reputation, she knows exactly what she did. She is trying, like the rest of them,
Does
other
she
people
know
that were
she's in
involved
legal
this.
jeopardy now?
I think she absolutely knows she's in legal jeopardy. I mean, she is a lawyer. She knows exactly what's going on here. So she is trying to deny everything, admit nothing, turn everything over against Trump, put it all back on him. They are trying to clean themselves by going publicly. But look, they are showing their guilt every single day. And if you just look at what Judicial Watch uncovered with Bill Priestip, and you go back last year to the IG report, where there were direct emails between President Obama and Hillary Clinton on her server. And also the fact that President Obama used an alias when he contacted her.
He was the high-ranking official.
That's right.
They're not. I mean, Democrats. I mean, crooked leftists in the attempt to coup to overthrow a duly elected election and still to continue to overthrow after Donald Trump was elected president of the United States. This is, again, got to be made a point of. These people have to be put out and be made a point and show that anybody else in the government that attempts to do this again, your life will be over. This is just something that cannot happen again in our country. And God bless Donald Trump for doing what he does and sticking with it and staying at it. And folks, you're listening to New Right Network's original series, Smith TV. Your host, Brian Smith, giving you all the breaking news of the day, wrapping it all up, making sense of it all, giving you the real news and exposing the fake news. Folks, crush the share, crush the like, tell your friends and your family about it. Jump over to SmythTV. Check out the shop that we got set up and become a Patreon and help Donald Trump to keep America great again. Because 2020 is going to be here like it's no time, folks. And 2024, once that happens, it is all on our shoulders to continue to keep America great again, to continue to expose the politicians for who they are and what they're doing so that you know who to vote for and you know who to vote out. All right, guys. For Tuesday Thoughts, have a good night.
You've been listening to New Right Network, mobilizing, countering, energizing. Online at newrightnetwork.com.